Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. This is our daily get-together live here on Facebook every day of the week, 10:30 in the morning, where we examine headlines, comments, tips, questions, and suggestions that help us have an awesome life living here full-time in Puerto Vallarta as English-speaking locals. It is Thursday, 26th of November. Today is Thanksgiving, and I know that a large number of people out there are celebrating American or U.S. Thanksgiving today. Are you celebrating U.S. Thanksgiving today? I've put out a poll just to get a sense as to how many of us are getting involved in this very traditional celebration from the United States. Thanksgiving has always been extremely important to me because it is one of those celebrations in which people seem to just get together just for the sake of being thankful for having a family, for having friends. Of course, living down here in Mexico and being a full-time employee, it's always a little tricky to be able to sneak out to the many celebrations that one gets invited to, or to dinners at restaurants and so forth and so on. And this being a year in which we need to emphasize a lot of the work that we're doing, there won't be much of a celebration, or at least there are no early dinners for me this year, but I certainly wish anybody that is gathering this afternoon with friends or family to have the most amazing U.S. Thanksgiving, if it is your cup of tea. If it isn't, well, then let's hope that you get invited to eat some turkey and stuffings, or at least have a great meal tomorrow, leftovers, which are always wonderful to enjoy. By the way, if you're new to these broadcasts, my name is Paco, and we always welcome new friends here at Coffee and Headlines. Please let us know that you're new by writing the word new in your comment, and we'll give you a nice welcome. And also, if you have important questions that you'd like to share with everybody here in the community, just add the letter Q to the beginning of your question. That way we'll make sure to try to get to it during the broadcast, and if not, we will get to it shortly thereafter. Let me take a quick look as to who's here this morning. We see a lot of our regular friends joining us, and this is beautiful. A lot of happy Thanksgiving wishes from a lot of people. I imagine that for those folks that are enjoying Thanksgiving today, you are rushing to get back to your preparation. So we're going to have a short and swift Coffee and Headlines today. We're going to share a few news and headlines so that we can all continue doing our thing. Doug says, Macy's Parade, National Dog Show, cocktails and pumpkin pie from Cincinnati. That sounds like fun. I read somewhere that Macy's is having to adapt their parade to, obviously, the new circumstances this year. So I hope that the parade will be fun to watch on television. Great wishes from our friend Kelly, who I had the pleasure of meeting while he was here in Puerto Vallarta. Let's see who else is here. Christy's here. Linda is saying hello from Versalles, just next door. Let's see. Bim, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Stephanie is missing traditional Thanksgiving. Well, for some people it's going to be a little challenging because, again, this year brings up new circumstances. Okay. Logan is looking for a washing machine technician. So there you have it. If anybody has a tip for that, it will be greatly appreciated. Anyhow, these are our hellos. We're going to dive. Oh, hold on just a second. Did I hear about USA doesn't want Americans to come to Mexico? In the way back, they have to have a quarantine. I have not seen this headline. Angelica, I wonder what newspaper you saw it in, and if you have it handy, we would certainly appreciate your sharing the news source so we can take a good look at it. And let's take a look at the results of the poll. It shows us that 60% of you are going to celebrate Thanksgiving today, which is wonderful, and 40% of us will not really have a chance to dive into a whole day's worth of things. But I certainly wish for those of you that are going to enjoy Thanksgiving that you have a sweet, sweet, wonderful time. I also wanted to touch base on a couple of things that happened yesterday that I absolutely loved. Number one, I was so grateful for the kind comments that you shared with us regarding the walking tours. And it seems to me that Walking Wednesdays is here to stay. You folks enjoyed it very much. So if anybody has any comments or suggestions of places where you'd like me to go walking, I cannot guarantee that I'll be able to go, but I will certainly like to keep it in mind to make sure that everybody is getting what you want to see. And the second thing that I just loved about yesterday is how many responses we received regarding this notion of where do we bring our first-time visitors for Welcome to Puerto Vallarta dinner on their first night here. And your responses are so diverse, and it shows, number one, that you have all kinds of personal tastes as to what you enjoy when you're here in Puerto Vallarta. And number two, that here at Coffee and Headlines, we can continue talking about food and dining for a long time, and we're still going to be entertained. Clearly, we love dining out and we love our restaurants, and that's a good thing because we love our restaurants too, and we're always going to continue including that type of content here at Coffee and Headlines. So let us take a look at a few important news items that I have shared for you, and we'll take it from there, and we will move right along to the weather, and then I have a bunch of leisurely links for you to consider on this holiday weekend for many. Let's get started. Well, for starters, this headline didn't even make it to the papers, and I looked at this on the Vallarta Opina website, but what they did publish on Facebook is that enormous building or construction site at the end of Playa Los Muertos here in Puerto Vallarta has been closed down by PROFEPA, which is the agency that handles the environment and so forth and so on. And it is essentially the agency that authorizes constructions and the environmental impact that they may or may not have. But look at these photographs. What used to be a beautiful home or a beautiful sets of homes has completely been torn down. And they were trying to make way for this ginormous, this is a rendering. This would be just next to Mantamar, which is rather large looking, and if you look at it, it's huge. It's an eyesore. So this has been shut down, or as we say locally, this has been clausurado. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with the piece of land, but it is a big eyesore. If you look at some of this photograph, they did manage to dig a ginormous hole there. So we'll have to see what happens with this as we move forward. We mentioned yesterday that Governor Alfaro has been drawing criticism because he is doing this pilot program in which he is opening a stadium in Guadalajara for a classic game between the Guadalajara Chivas and I believe it's the America. Yes, it's the America team, which is Mexico City based. So this is a game that apparently is going to take place this weekend, and there's been a lot of criticism as to whether this was a wise idea or not. Ultimately, again, we are going to have to take a look at the numbers in a couple of weeks to see if the impact was adverse or was negative. And I can't concentrate because the next door dog cannot stop barking, but I'll try my damnedest to stay with you. The governor is also drawing criticism over the fact that Jalisco, our state, we have all kinds of wonderful things going on in our state, But when it comes down to bodies found places, there is no other state like the state of Jalisco that has the largest number of uh, unidentified bodies that have been found in graveyards. And this is thought provoking because it has a lot to do with what our state is doing in terms of state security. It's not something that we should be concerned about personally, because obviously a lot of these deaths have to do with drug trafficking and whatnot. But clearly, our governor is not happy to see that, the headlines are pointing to insecurity in the states, in our state rather. There's this headline, and of course the death of Felipe Tomé, the important real estate developer that was kidnapped this weekend. All of this is probably keeping our governor on his toes as far as making sure that the state of Jalisco continues to be a safe state for everyone. And number three, there has been criticism for the government because in the new way in which he's revealing the weekly COVID-19 stats on Sundays, he is no longer showing the number of active cases because apparently this number continues to be over the threshold that sent us into the emergency button. But again, I wish to believe that the governor and his health team are looking for the most efficient ways to handle this, and we will continue to see how these numbers are shared with us. Another news item of interest that I caught is the fact that there is going to be, some people are working on this travel pass. Travel pass is a project of the International Air Travel Association, and this would be a digital passport that somehow will connect with COVID-19 labs, such that if you've had a test, if you're good to travel, this information can be sent to an app, which you can then show at the airport, and you don't need to go through a lot of turmoil in order to be able to board a plane. Now, this is not going to be deployed until next year. The folks from the International Air Travel Association are still trying to find a way to make it work and make it a standard worldwide. We'll have to see exactly how this works as we move forward. Let me take a quick look at your comments so far, and then we can continue with our leisurely news. Let's see. We've looked at that. Beautiful holiday wishes from Casa Bellavista. Thank you very much, Lynn. That is much appreciated, especially coming from you. Look at all these comments for Thanksgiving. So very happy that a lot of you are going to be able to do a nice celebration. Happy Thanksgiving to my friend Noy, our friend Noy, who is watching from Bangkok. Let's see. The CDC recommending not traveling to Mexico. Well, in reality, as far as I understand, the United States is very concerned about people traveling, period. And I know that a lot of people in the United States are having, what is that on my hair? Are having questions about whether to travel or not. So, again, whatever you choose to do, just do it carefully. Just do it carefully. Joe comments on the closing down of that property. Again, we'll have to see what happens with that. It is unfortunate, I will say, that it took them this long to close it down. I mean, you'd think that they would have to have they would have had to submit permission to build or start building before they even started digging the ground. But what do I know? Let's see. Okay, so I'm caught up with you, and this is good. Let me then continue on to the weather, and then I have some interesting headlines to share with everyone. We continue to like our weather. Of course, it is now 26 degrees Celsius, feels like 28. It is 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity is at 70%. But we don't have to worry too much about that because it feels nice and cold and fresh, at least in the mornings. We can look at a humid day throughout the day with a high temperature of 30. Same thing for tomorrow with a high temperature of 30. And lastly, on Saturday, it's going to be humid through the day as well, but the temperature is going to come down a little bit. It's going to be a high of 29. And this is all good stuff. And now I'm going to move on to a bunch of interesting leisurely links that I shared with you. These are not necessarily specific to Puerto Vallarta, but they have to do with the holidays and this season that is approaching. For example, the New York Times offers us all kinds of options for getting the holiday fix at home. For many folks in the United States, this is the season to go watch the Nutcracker, to go enjoy a performance of Handel's Messiah, and so forth and so on. So the New York Times offers us a few options that we can catch online, and we can figure out how these important performances are being reinvented during pandemic times. Oh, this next one is absolutely funny. We were just talking about, check out this poor squirrel. A Minnesota woman apparently got her squirrel sloshed accidentally because she had some pears in her refrigerator, and these pears were so old that the sugar had fermented, and this poor squirrel can barely stand still. So somebody was asking not too long ago, is it possible to rescue squirrels? Well, this one absolutely needs to be rescued from some boozy fruit, which of course the owner says she immediately removed once she realized that her squirrel was having quite the trip trying to stay standing. This comes from our friends at Vox. Vox.com offers a list of wonderful Feast of Food movies. This is a series of films that have to do with food being so prevalent this time of the year. There's a bunch of great films mentioned here. Some of them I'm familiar with, some of them I'm not, and some of them are missing, in my opinion. You have great films like, for example, Babette's Feast from 1987, Big Night from 1997 is a beautiful comedy, and so forth and so on. There's all kinds of new films and not so old films that have to do with food in case you want to get in that frame of mind during the weekend. My friend Paul Chris shared this with me the other day. Apparently, there are journalists out there that have resurfaced some of Frédéric Chopin's most homoerotic love letters to his friends, and apparently the government of Poland has been keeping a bit quiet about the famous composer's personal love life. We know that Frédéric Chopin spent a lot of time with feminist writer George Sand, and George is a woman, but she is a lady that used to dress in men's clothes and so forth and so on. And Chopin had a very intimate personal friendship with her. We don't exactly know if they were lovers, but they spent a lot of time together. And apparently, Frédéric Chopin had all kinds of male friends in which he declares his declares, not declarates. Oh my God, declares his love for some of his friends. So I'm going to be reading more about this, and of course we'll talk about Chopin at some point. It occurred to me that if we have Tuesdays for tooting our own horns and Wednesdays for walking, then Mondays must be for music. I don't know what you think about that, but of course we're always free to talk about these topics on any day of the week because I know that you enjoy them, or at least you've told me so, and that is something that I very much enjoy. Moving on with some other links. Again, the New York Times gives us 10 classical concerts to stream in December. Some of these may be free, some of these we may have to pay for, but ultimately the choices are usually quite lovely when they come from the New York Times. And the last headline that I have for you is one that should concern many of us. This comes from Huffington Post, and it is 6 useful tips for anyone grieving their pre-pandemic life. And I sense that a number of us are still and will continue to be somewhat troubled by the fact that things are different, and that this can bring a lot of pain. This can bring some sadness to many. So this article, I glanced at it, but I think that it is something that we can all benefit from reading and hopefully also sharing with those loved ones that we know that are still struggling with all the new guidelines and world that we need to live in. So that's what we have for today. Let me take a quick look at your comments and suggestions so that we can go and have a Thanksgiving day or whatever kind of day that we are going to have. Let us see. Bing, ba-ding, bum, 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 bum. Oh, Dave tells us that those. I imagine, Dave, that you're referring to that building that has already been shut down. And if half the units are already sold, well, again, these become interesting problems for developers and for the government. We'll have to see what happens there. Um, let's see. I completely agree with you, Linda. There have been some developers that have been more responsible than others in terms of keeping that appeal, and it's a difficult thing to balance. Definitely. Let's see what else. Apple dessert just went in the oven. I love it. I love it. Okay. Oh, I understand now. I had no idea, Joe, that the squirrel viral video is that you mentioned the other day is this one. I don't even remember who sent it to me, but it was one of you, and I was so very grateful to receive it. Um, I love it. And Karen says that the little squirrel was back the next day. Well, sometimes you just got to do the good stuff. What can I tell you? Let's see. Oh, some of you like Music Mondays. I love it. I will be thinking about this between now and this coming Monday. Anyhow, this is our short but lovely coffee and headlines for today. Again, if you have places that you're intrigued about that I could go walking for Wednesday, let me know. We're going to continue to find a way to toot our own horns on Tuesdays. Again, we want to wait the balance between being an advertiser-free environment, but also promoting all the wonderful things that many of you are involved in as you live your lives here in Puerto Vallarta. And oh my God, a lot of you are cooking today. It makes me feel envious, but in a good way. In a good way. Again, it is nice to see that many of you have the opportunity to uh, celebrate Thanksgiving. Joe Willis says Marina Vallarta walking tour. I will be happy to oblige. Sometime in the future, I'll just add it to my list of places to go. I know that I'm going to be walking through Fluvial because I need to get my way out to La Leche, as I promised before Sunday. And this means that I am going to be taking photographs of La Leche storefront. So if I'm going to go there, I might as well walk and bring my camera along with me. Anyhow, this is what we have for today. It's a little short, but I'm always happy to get together with you. I hope those of you that are celebrating Thanksgiving, watch your calories, have a good time, enjoy the company of your friends and loved ones. For the rest of us, it will be wonderful to see you again sometime soon. Stay happy, stay kind, stay surrounded by love, and stay surrounded by your friends, and stay in touch. And I will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.